Five-time NBA champion.
There's only one person all that applies to.
Magic Johnson knows what it takes to be a winner.
He'll speak with us on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin.
Followed by a stop in to get up.
And he'll join me on First Take.
It's Magic in the Morning, Monday, June 21st, starting with KJZ at 6 a.m. Eastern.
Get up on ESPN starting at 8 Eastern.
And First Take at 10, Monday, June 21st. Magic all morning.
Monday's going to be fun. Injuries, though, have been a huge part of these playoffs. Anthony Davis injuring his groin back in Game 4 of the Lakers' first-round series against the Suns, which caused him to miss Game 5 and limited him to just over 5 minutes in Game 6. James Harden and Kyrie Irving have both missed time in the Nets series against the Bucks. Harden has returned. Kyrie remains out for tonight's Game 6. And then yesterday, we unfortunately found out that Kawhi Leonard would miss Game 5 against the Jazz with a right knee sprain, and the Clippers said there is no timetable for his return. Now, as the injuries continue to pile up around the league, hindering several of the major stars in the playoffs, LeBron James went off on social media yesterday with a big "I told you so" rant for the NBA. Here's what he said. They all didn't want to listen to me about the start of the season. I knew exactly what would happen. I only wanted to protect the well-being of the players, which ultimately is the product and benefit of our game. These injuries just isn't, quote, part of the game. It's the lack of pure rim rest before starting back up. 8, possibly 9 All-Stars have missed playoff games, most in league history. This is the best time of the year for our league, and our fans are missing a ton of our favorite players. It's insane. If there's one person that know about the body and how it works all year round, it's me. I speak for the health of all our players, and I hate to see this many injuries this time of year. Sorry, fans. Wish you guys were seeing all your favorite guys right now. Okay, he had a lot to say, but Han, he does make a point. Did the NBA do a disservice to the players by starting them too soon and having that shortened offseason?
No, of course they didn't. Why? Because the union, which LeBron and all the players are a member of, were complicit. They agreed. They signed off on it. It's assumed liability. This is what you knew was going to happen, that it was going to be a short off season. You also had from March until July off as well. Let's not forget about that. Now, some of these injuries we're talking about, I don't know. Some of them you could say, are they conditioning injuries or are they just part of playing basketball? Are they bodies breaking down? I don't know. But I want to know who LeBron was talking to when he said that I told that nobody wanted to listen to me about this. Kawhi Leonard, his injury. The guy load manages all year. People criticize him for getting rest that he needs to get, that he feels he needs to keep himself at optimum levels. Did that work? The rest? So how much do we really want to blame this on them? It's just starting the season when they wanted to start, meaning the players first pushed the idea of starting the season around Martin Luther King Day, which would have been a great day to have the first game of the season in a normal circumstance. But for the league, that would have cost, and the players, it would have cost millions to push it up another month. So it doesn't make sense. So as I go back to it, I say it again, Key, the players assume this liability by agreeing to start when they started. Did they have an option? Probably not, because the clock was ticking, as we know. But you did have, 4 teams got conference finals that got into October, had a short off season. But most of the rest of the league did not. I feel like this is excuse making.
Here we go. I don't think it's excuse making, and I do agree with LeBron that the league probably could have pushed things off. You say they didn't have a choice. That may be true.
Were you willing to give up millions? Millions.
Maybe they didn't have a choice, but you negotiate out of that. The league wouldn't allow them to do so because of the television rights. TV wanted to start when they wanted to start to make the money.
And if not, what was the cost? What was the cost?
The players need to rest. They need to rest up. Yeah, you talk about only the teams in the bubble that made deep playoff runs, and the teams that were not in the bubble or the ones that exit the bubble extremely early, they may have not needed the rest. But marquee teams like the Lakers, they needed that rest. Yes, LeBron James, older, wanted more rest. Because if LeBron decides to load manage, guess what? People go crazy. Oh, load manage. Look at my kids paid. I paid to come see him play. He's not playing. People go nuts. If he has the time to rest up, maybe he plays in some of those games. Kawhi Leonard plays in some of those games. Teams and players like that, but it didn't happen. So now you're looking at certain injuries, and some of the injuries, you say, okay, they're not all soft tissue. But if their legs are tired because they didn't get enough rest, therefore, their ability to do certain things and get out of the way at certain times may not be there because they're forced to continue to play. Kawhi is an example of somebody bumping knees. Okay, a Kyrie, a twisted ankle. But what about the hamstring injuries, the soft tissue injuries, things of that nature that went on throughout the course of the season that forced players to miss time?
James Harden's hamstring injury?
James Harden's hamstring injury.
Well,
what about that?
Do you think that was a result of conditioning?
What
Do you
could
think that
be?
was a result of lack of rest?
It could be.
Or lack of something else?
It could be. We don't know.
The guy was getting his jersey retired in a club instead of getting ready for the Rockets.
He looked one way in Houston and another way with the Nets.
He did, didn't he?
As he rested up.
I mean, he took off the fat suit once he showed up. I don't know if the Brooklyn Nets uniform is slimming. It might be. I don't know.
It's black. Of course it is.
Maybe black is slimming, but he looked a lot different once he got to Brooklyn. But still, it was pretty well known in Houston when he showed up for camp and when he showed up actually to play. He didn't really show up for camp. When he showed up, he wasn't in shape. He had to play himself into shape. And you got to know this. You can't play yourself into shape at that level. It's going to cause injuries. So, yeah, if you want to. And how about LeBron, your guy? I mean, LeBron James's injury was a freak accident.
Well, injuries. That one
was an awkward hustle play that somebody rolled up on him. That wasn't a conditioning injury.
That one there,
he was playing
rolled up on him.
At the highest level. He was an MVP candidate when he got hurt.
There's an AD injury on the groin. He came down.
You're giving me Anthony Davis.
He came down.
I mean, I don't have enough pages here of his injury history, and you're going to give me Anthony Davis as an example?
Anthony Davis. Because it was a groin injury. It wasn't a knee. It wasn't an ankle. It was a groin injury.
It's all connected. You can't give me Anthony Davis as an example.
Why?
If LeBron broke down, there's a guy that never breaks down. His best ability is his durability.
McCollum missed time during the season. You're going to have, if you're not resting up properly, you're going to have certain injuries that will come. There's no question about it. Science says it. They need proper time off.
Yes.
There's no question. And I think the NBA should push the season back again and move it into maybe November.
Okay, so you're ready to put more money into escrow?
So is that the solution you would come up with, what they need to do for the upcoming season?
Yes.
When?
I think
when? How are you getting 82 games in?
I think November.
And so is it just a continuous cycle of pushing back because
when does it end?
At what point does it stabilize again?
I think you find a permanent solution, which is pushing it back maybe to the end of November. So you're not running up. Your meat of your season is not running up against the NBA. I mean, against the NFL also. You're starting, but you're not running up against it because the NFL will be ending.
What about reducing the number of games for one season? I don't know. Would that be an option?
Well, again, they just did that. 72 games.
Yeah, they did.
That's 10 fewer. That's 10 games. That's a lot of money. And as we've mentioned, you did mention it, the broadcast partners, they have a say in this because they expect to play on certain dates. An opening night in October that we've already set up as an opening night. Christmas Day, a huge day for both of the national networks. But you can
still get in Christmas Day because the day ain't changing. You can start in November and still get in Christmas Day.
Well,
so
what I meant by Christmas,
maybe that's a solution. We change the holiday schedule.
Right, that's it.
For the NBA.
But that's what I was mentioning, though, is from this year, why they needed to have it in December was Christmas Day was a very important day. It's like sort of like that's the real start of the NBA season. As you know, you mentioned it. The NFL does dominate in the fall. You also in October are going up against baseball playoffs, World Series. You're dealing with that. So you are contending with others. But once you get to December, you're not contending with anybody other than NFL playoffs, which is just the weekend.
And that's why you roll it into late December. Late November.
But how do you
roll
get
it into?
Now there were some owners, including some of the owners in Atlanta, that actually were pushing that idea of starting the season around, like making Christmas Day the start of the season and pushing it all up like we're seeing now. Take your finals into July. And they just feel like, again, the Olympics are a big part of this as well. That just doesn't fit their schedule. It's better to go back to the original plan of October and then have the playoffs end or have the finals end in late June, have your free agency in July, and everybody takes off August and September. That's what they want to get back to. The point is if you're trying to buy some more time for the players based on this year, you're giving up. How do you squeeze 82 games into a one less month of a season? Now you're talking about rest, back-to-backs. You're going to have all that stuff if you're trying to keep that schedule.
I don't think the back-to-backs is that big of a deal if they get the rest. I don't think the back-to-backs.
Do you want you'd rather give up the extra month than give up and take more back-to-backs than have fewer back-to-backs and not have the extra month off. And remember, the extra month off is for basically 4 or 2 teams. Out of 30, the needs of the few outweigh the needs of the many?
I think so when you're talking about the superstar players. Absolutely.
This year we might not have superstars in the
What is
finals.
the league built on? They built
on the
it's built
stars.
on the superstar players.
It is true.
So if I got to protect my superstar players to protect the league, that's what you do.
That's a conversation you have to have with your union then, because, again, once you signed off on it,
Have a conversation.
once you voted,
Okay,
You
well-
don't sign off on it if they put it in front of you and it makes sense at the time that you sign it.
this was an argument among the players. The players had this argument, and it was the star players that were pushing the idea of pushing the season, and the other players said, I'm not giving up any more money. I don't want to see my salary go into escrow. You guys with your $45 million a year contracts, you can afford that. I can't when I'm on a veteran's minimum, and that's why they lost that vote.
Well, in fact, the matter is a lot of the superstars aren't even playing ball right now because they're out injured. So
Yes.
will that affect how you look back on these playoffs?
No, not really, because it's somewhat a changing of the guard to a degree anyway. You're starting to get these younger players starting to put their stamp on the NBA, the Trae Youngs of the world. You know,
So you think it's a good thing in a certain way?
if LeBron James and Steph Curry are not playing in the finals, it's going to look different anyway because we've been used to that for so long. And now all of a sudden, we got a KD who is by far the best player in the NBA in the world right now. Or you have a Joel Embiid who needs to just stay healthy, who's one of the best players in the world right now. Donovan Mitchell is one of the young players in the world right now that is really good. So when you start to look at some of those young talent, they're coming. They're not there yet, but eventually they will be a Devin Booker. It'll be about Devin Booker 3, 4, 5 years from now. It'll be about those young players. It won't be about LeBron James anymore.
Yeah, I think it does hurt the league because the diehard basketball fans will always tune in. It's the other fans that usually parachute in around this time to see the stars play. You turn on ABC, you see the finals, you want to see Steph Curry, LeBron, you want to see guys you know.
But I want to see Chris Paul.
But
I want to see Chris Paul.
You're right.
And
maybe you will.
I want to see Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. I want to see that. I want to see Trae Young. I will watch Trae Young for my money. I have no problem watching Trae Young.
You will watch it once you know that there's a reason to watch. And I'm not saying it because you understand sports. You're at that level. I'm talking about casual fans.
And I think the casual fan would want to see a guy that has so much, it mimics Steph Curry so much. If you get a chance to see him play, you're like, okay.
That's the key phrase.
I want to see.
You get the chance to see him. You've got to be drawn in, and there needs to be some epic performances like what KD did the other night. Now, you already knew who KD was, but him having that signature performance certainly helps and makes the league and everybody else want to say, the Nets need to keep going here.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you mentioned a couple of these players that really are making names for themselves these days. You know, Donovan Mitchell, Joel Embiid, more so because they have a chance to. You know, they're beating out some of these other teams,
Yes.
but they're also dealing with some injuries themselves.
Yeah,
You know, so Donovan Mitchell clutching his knee last night. Joel Embiid obviously having some knee problems. You know, KD obviously has already been established. He's having injury problems of his own. So it's really all the way across the board. And actually, according to Elias Sports